Okay, guys, this is a video I've been trying to do. I kind of been falling behind lately on my visual schedule. Sorry about that. Just haven't really found the will to do videos lately and uh, school. So yeah, this is a video I've been thinking of for a really long time, and hopefully you guys enjoy. Now, guys, don't forget to go even further beyond and subscribe. Life, as we knew it, was born by a single being. This being created the races, the aliens, the humans, the Saiyans, the Namekians. Maybe not in their shape or form, maybe not with their exact names, but he created those. But he created life forms. He would, however, he would then create his children, the angels. These angels would go to the universes and appoint members of the universe to govern the universe, to make sure to destroy the threats, and keep life going on. This universe would flourish. The universes would flourish. However, it wasn't for long, because for you see, with all creation comes destruction, and with this destruction came chaos. Chaos in its purest form, in its most erratic form, in its most random form. A child that wanted whatever it wanted, when it wanted, and whenever it wanted. He was called the OMNI King, a child. The Grand Priest was aghast, and therefore wanted to overthrow the OMNI King. However, the OMNI King invested him with a single thought, almost destroying him entirely, and making him lose even more of his infinite supply of energy. The Grand Priest realized that he was much weaker because he had created the universes, and a being of the universes had visited the OMNI King and annoyed the OMNI King even in the slightest way. The OMNI King just destroyed his universe. The Grand Priest, in grief of losing his children and his creations, he created the Super Dragon Ball and linked them to his power, the power to recreate universes. He used it so that he used them so that he could bring back his children. However, this drained his power, as the Super Dragon Balls, although infinite in their possibilities, were linked to his power, and if overused, they could very much kill him as well. As soon, the OMNI King would keep on destroying universes, and the Grand Priest would keep bringing them back until the Grand Priest realized that this was useless. This being, once eternal being that created the universe, is now known as the Grand Priest, had now been deprived of almost all his power, and was left with simply just his wisdom. However, so when the OMNI King destroyed the last universe, the Grand Priest, realizing that he wanted life to come back and life to move on, and that it needed to go on, transferred his wisdom into the mind of the OMNI King, his power and his wisdom, and this was what created. And this made the OMNI King even more powerful and even wiser. This OMNI King then realized of his mistakes, and using his infinite power in the same process in a much more simple way than the original Grand Priest had done, he created the universe using the Super Dragon Balls, now linking them to himself, and creating the universes thus again, and thus creating more angels to go govern over them, and appointing members of divine right. These, however, again, not to his expectance, the universe then created a countermeasure to creation, destruction, chaos. The OMNI King, another one, appeared. The Grand Priest would then realize that the OMNI King was a necessity to life, and therefore resurrected the old spirit of his Grand Priest, and made a bodyguard of the OMNI King. This guardian was meant to make sure that the OMNI King was not to destroy everything, and make sure, or that he would not get things. If the Grand Priest then created a system, or the OMNI King was treated as the god he was, and make sure and use everything in his power to sway the OMNI King in his favor, to manipulate him in the ways that chaos should be manipulated. and when grief overruled him too much, he would collect the Super Dragon Balls and then and wish for the universes back. However, when divine beings knew of the existence of the Super Dragon Balls, they started using them for their own will. And by speaking in the divided languages, thanks to the help of their angels, they were able to grant wishes of their own. Examples are mortality, and examples would be mortality, and even more destruction. The Grand Priest, realizing this, would put limits on the divine being's wishes, and if anything overruled it, because he would know, since the dragon was linked to him, he would be able to know what would happen. So as time went on, the Omni King would then erase all the universes in a single accident. The Grand Priest, the old Grand Priest spirit, that would then disembody as the Omni King would have been so mad at the time, or he would destroy away the last universe, that the resurrected spirit, or its home world and basis in which it had flooded into, was now destroyed, and therefore the guardian itself of the Omni King was destroyed. The Grand Priest will then do exactly what his former Grand Priest had done, and transfer all his remaining wisdom and power into the Omni King itself, and therefore, or creating a new Grand Priest. Because this Grand Priest will then again use the Super Dragon Balls to recreate the universe, and use these powers to create even more, and use these powers to link the Super Dragon Balls to himself, and make sure that his power was even more infinite, and then recreate the universes. Then again, an Omni King would be recreated. Another internal guard, another Omni King guardian would be made of the last Grand Priest spirit, and therefore life would go on. This cycle of terror would continue, but with one difference: each time this Omni reset would happen, the Grand Priest would put more and more power into recreating the universes, as more and more power would be left over from the Omni King, keep spiraling upward, and they're creating more advanced civilizations, more powerful fighters, and more beings like himself that could create dragons like them over time. And over time, they created time travel, in which multiple timelines would be able to do. However, in these timelines, the Grand Priest was somehow eliminated by his dragon being eliminated, as the Grand Priest would realize that if his dragon was eliminated, he too would be eliminated now that it was linked to him. And the Grand Priest realized that he had to keep Super Dragon Balls around, so that only one universe and timeline could survive. Then that way nothing would go over too out of balance. However, what he didn't count on was for an Omni King to travel across us timelines, and this would put two Omni Kings in a single Grand Priest. This was bad. The Grand Priest of that timeline realized that that the universes were now in a much more unstable position, and that he would create. And so that when the Omni Reset happened, he had no choice but to split his wisdom into two Omni Kings, making sure this made the Grand Priest double linked to the Super Dragon Balls. After many Omni Resets, finally there were now two Grand Priests, one Omni King, and an Eternal Guardian. Soon, when the time came for another Omni Reset, of the universe, the Grand Priest then both transferred their power into one Omni King. This corrupted the next Omni King, filling him with power and greed and wisdom beyond control. He would then resurrect his two Grand Priests into guardians of his own Omni King, and he would appoint his angels in the universes like normal. But what people didn't realize was that he was going to do something even more drastic. He realized that it could be possible for him to reclaim his own energy, to reclaim the own power of infinity, simply by trying to absorb the Omni Kings and manifesting chaos into his own being, as chaos had already been manifested in, as he had already been cleansed by chaos twice when they formed two Omni Kings. He was much more powerful than any Grand Priest. He was as powerful as the Grand Priest. As the original Grand Priest. He was much stronger. However, this created being. However, when he created the universe, he realized that he had put way too much power than he should have. This created beings that brilliant scientists that could transcend time, create multiple upon multiple branches of time, and more importantly, create mortals that could challenge the God's odds and stand up to his even own power, fight to him on equal footing. So the Grand Priest realized that Earth needed to be created that worlds need to be created upon his own very will, make them exactly to his own very benefit. And therefore he realized that the only way there could be eternal peace in the world was to make sure that mortals no longer lived. And he would manipulate from the shadows, adding another Omni King to his timeline, and making it so that the Omni King would eventually try to destroy more universes quickly, all in the name of making it so that there was balance in the universe. It's using the so-called mortal or power level as a misguidance to other divine beings, making them think as if it was all okay, but it wasn't. For you see, the Grand Priest was now manipulating everything so that he and his angels and his divine being could return everything to it once was, and make it so that there were only them there, and make it so that life would be divine and everything right would be about him. He would realize that he could, by continuously remaking universes and harvesting Omni Kings, he could finally make it so that there was only one perfect universe. Okay, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll watch the channel. That you have a great day, and peace out.